Good morning. Can everyone find a seat and try to stop your conversation for a while because you have the whole 2 days that you are going to meet your friends. We are going to start it. Excuse me. They are too involved in the conversation. Actually, you are blocking someone to look into me.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can we please start to get seated so we can start the conference?
Yes. Wow, good. Good morning. I need to be louder. Good morning. Yeah, thank you very much for your response and show me that you are already seated. Okay. Thank you. I'm Doris Lang. I'm one of the MCs. I'm very glad to have the opportunity. As I always said, this is my parent university. I graduate here and then I now contribute back with my social venture, Diamond Cap. I wish everyone here today, some of us already met yesterday because you are members and some of them are non-members, right? So please try to consider to be our members, AVPN, you know. You will have very different treatment. Like last night, we have a very good buffet that you missed it already. So, but more than food, we need more connection and more collaboration. So AVPN will give you this great platform to do it. This year, we have the record, the high participant. It's talking about over 620, right? So I think every year we are experiencing more and more people are involved and interested in venture philanthropy, impact investing, social investment, so many terms. But I think the same one is we see the issue, we see the problems, and we want to get together and make the change. It's a real change and long term for you and for the next generation. So Kevin, it's your time.
Thanks, Doris. Welcome to day one of the AVPN conference. This is their 4th annual conference. And like Doris mentioned, it's probably the best one yet. And next year will be good too. So if you want to join the Members Day, as she said, find the AVPN team who's wearing the red lanyards. And you could bother them about anything to the program, where the bathroom is, where the coffee is, and also how to become a member. So before we get kicked off, I want to get started on some of the logistics matters. So like I said, the AVPN team, they're wearing red lanyards that could be of help. And if you need help going back to the hotel or to public transportation, the PolyU students are wearing red shirt and they have the logo on them. The next thing is that when you are networking and getting coffee, please stop by the AVPN Knowledge Center. It's right outside the auditorium and they have 3 publications that AVPN has worked hard on. And it's a great toolkit for both practitioners and venture philanthropists and investors. The next thing is that while you're there, next to it, there's 2 member booths from China Charity Fund and Nexus Carbon for Development, 2 really great organizations, so please check them out and speak to them. So I want to really thank, on behalf of AVPN, the sponsors and partners that are making this conference possible. So I'm coming from Singapore, from a social enterprise accelerator called VOP Hub. And we have a conference similar, and we know how difficult it is to run such conferences by ourselves, and it's the partners who really make the difference. So thank you. So I guess we could get started, and I want to welcome on stage Professor Timothy Tong, the president of Hong Kong Polytechnic University. He's our first speaker of the day, and before his tenure here as the president, he was the dean of the School of Engineering and Applied Science at George Washington University, and he is actively involved in addressing energy issues and its sustainable development. Please welcome him on stage.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm so delighted to see all of you here. This is the first time that the Asian Venture Philanthropy Network hosts its annual event in Hong Kong, and I'm honored that the Hong Kong Polytechnic University can provide the venue to host this event. First of all, let me express our appreciation to AVPN, the chairman, who is Mr. Douglas Miller. But he has an emergency medical condition. He cannot be here with us. Of course, we wish him well and speedy recovery. But the CEO is here. Ms. Nana Sabawo Batra. Would you join me in giving a round of applause to the CEO, please? Thank you. Thank you. And the lead partner of this event is the Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development Fund. And may I invite you again to join me in giving a round of applause to Mr. Kim Sokeld, the Secretary General. Thank you. We've actually partnered before, holding events connected to social innovation on campus. You know. Of course, I'd like to also extend a very warm welcome to all of you, the speakers, the members. I know many of you have made a special trip to Hong Kong, although the weather is a little bit warm, but I can tell you it's much better than 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago when it was just pouring rain. Today, we are living in a world full of challenges, and that is exactly why we have gathered here today, to find out how we can collectively help make the world a better place for everyone. I'm sure many of you have heard of a saying, give a man a fish, and you have fed him once. But teach him how to fish, and you have fed him for a lifetime. It is because we are so eager to help the needy that we recognize that philanthropy is no longer only giving away money to charities or short-term projects to meet the immediate needs. Thus, venture philanthropy uses concepts in venture capital finance and applies them to philanthropic projects and goals. Nowadays, corporations and foundations, including many of the representatives here, are increasingly deploying funds to help organizations build capacities, transfer skills, and become self-sustaining entities. We seek to achieve longer-term social impact and drive systemic changes. In this regard, you may ask, as a university, how can PolyU take part in or contribute to building capacity for social good? I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you some of our beliefs and our experiences. We believe young people are drivers for change. PolyU aims at nurturing a new generation of socially responsible leaders who have a heart to serve. We are the first university in Hong Kong to introduce service learning subjects in the curriculum. And service learning is compulsory and credit-bearing for all our undergraduate students since 2012. In 2012, the universities in Hong Kong underwent a major transformation, switching from a 3-year system to a 4-year system. And with that extra years of time, we have reformed our curriculum to provide a more holistic education to our students. And the unique and new element in our curriculum is indeed to nurture our young people, not only to have the skills to be successful professionally, but to become a socially responsible citizen of the world, okay? And with the support from many NGOs, professional organizations, and government bodies, we have created many opportunities for students to apply their knowledge and skills to help people in need. Each year, 4,000 undergraduate students graduate. So you can imagine the workforce, the human force that we are mobilizing to help drive some positive changes in society. Our service learning projects, most of them take place in Hong Kong, about 75% of them. 15% of them takes place in mainland China. And about 10% takes place in the rest of the world, in a place as far away as Rwanda in Africa, but in a number of southeastern countries as well, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar. I myself was in Cambodia 2 years ago with 80 of our students doing service learning projects there. I wanted to witness myself how our students were doing and what they were doing. And I wanted to experience myself of the service learning projects that they were conducting. And through these exposures, students can have a better understanding of the complex social issues that we all face in today's world. And hopefully, our students will get inspired to drive positive changes by connecting the professional knowledge that they have gained through their studies and apply the professional knowledge to doing things that are meaningful and helpful to society. We also believe in public goods. Public goods are best realized by concerted global efforts. PolyU has joined hands with 11 renowned universities around the globe and formed the University Social Responsibility Network. And that took place a year ago, 2015. We would welcome other universities to join the network as well. We hope that through this partnership, members can combine their strengths and resources to spearhead university social responsibility initiatives with greater impacts and further advance higher education as a catalyst for social change. I regard collaboration and long-term strategic commitment as the keys to successful venture philanthropy. By collaboration, we create synergy and maximize the social impact of our individual efforts. Today's conference has provided a unique opportunity for all of us to share the same passion to connect with each other. I have every confidence that by joining hands together, we can indeed make the world a better place for everyone. Thank you very much, and have a great conference.
Thank you, Dr. Tang. Thank you very much. So we have some more housekeeping things to remind. You will see we have the social media booth outside, so please make good use of this to take a photo, to send to your friends, family, colleagues, and post in the social media. You can choose I love Hong Kong. I will choose this, or a hashtag AVPN 2016. Okay, and also we will have the investment showcase this morning. This year we have 30, okay? This morning you're going to see their pitching, and they will just walk around and in the room. Please give them some support. Turn to your program book, page 20. You will have a QR code. Just vote easily. And tomorrow we will have the final decision, who is the winner. Sorry, no money, but we have a very good support for spiritually, and so many people support them. Or we will receive the last moment sponsorship, okay? Welcome, welcome. And also we have a connector. Just now someone asked me, Doris, you recognize who's? Yes, but I cannot be your connector all the time. You recognize me, but I don't recognize everyone. So please make good use of the connector. Go to AVPN website, and then you can click on it and find the people there, send them a message, and really get some dating or in the meetings, everyone that you can enjoy with the connector service. Now, may I invite our CEO, Nana, to come to the stage and welcome our guests again. Thank you, Nana.
Good morning, everyone. I am here to welcome you on behalf of AVPN and our chair, Doug Miller. So in all rights, I should have jumped on the stage, but I'm in a sari, so I'm gonna excuse myself from doing that. But if Doug was here, this is a small stage. I think he would have come and done a flying leap. But more than anyone who's been to our conference before and who has interacted with AVPN, Doug is a larger-than-life figure. He's not only the founder chair of the Asian Venture Philanthropy Network, but he's also the founder of EVPA. And it's his vision and his remarkable energy that has actually driven the growth of both platforms, and why I think we've been able to get such a wonderful group of people here together to talk about partnership, collaboration, and basically maximizing social impact. Since Doug couldn't be here only at the very last minute, he had prepared a deck to talk to you about, and I'm just going to use that and share with you his message and his vision for both the conference and as well as for the whole venture philanthropy movement across Asia. Oh, okay. It has my name, but okay. Just move. Ah, there we go. All right. So AVPN's vision and Doug's vision in terms of why we exist. It is to look at the acceleration and the adoption of venture philanthropy and social investment across Asia. As Professor Tong said, partnership and collaboration is a way for us to really maximize social impact. Given the magnitude of social problems that exist in Asia and across the world, doing it alone, we can achieve something. But if we do it together, there's a lot more that we can do. And that is the philosophy behind AVPN. And that is why we exist, basically to learn, to share, and hopefully to collaborate and partner to see how we can maximize social capital. We talk about attracting financial, human, and intellectual capital to the sector. And I think, once again, Professor Tong said it very nicely when he talked about his students and the service learning that they do. I think human capital is probably the most important part of the capital that we can bring to the sector. So financial capital is in Doug's word, the engine that maybe drives the car, but human capital is the driver. And if you don't have a driver, I mean, yes, we have driverless cars now, but I think you still need a driver to take that across. Yeah, this is Doug's bragging slide, and I think he's earned it in the sense when you look at how we've grown and from where we've grown. So if he was here, he would tell you that he started EVPA in 2005 in his spare bedroom. And from that, it has moved to where we are today. Between AVPA and AVPN, we are 500 members who are all funders and resource providers of financial, human, and intellectual capital to the sector. So, remarkable. What do we want to do going forward? These are the things that AVPN is planning to do in the coming year. And, as Doris was making the plug for AVPN, thank you, Doris, it would be great if you're not associated with us, to have you associated with us as we look to grow the network, look to increase social impact through our knowledge center, through the deal flow platform, which is something that we have just launched, where you can actually list both projects and organizations that you would like to attract new partners to. Through our government initiative, which I think is path-breaking, where we're actually looking at engaging with policymakers from across the region to try and see how we can help shape policy and how we can help make a more enabling environment for social investment and social innovation. Corporates, very important. More and more corporates are looking at being good citizens. We had Bernard Chan here, who talked about the Caring Company initiative in Hong Kong, and this is something that's happening across the region. So that's That's something that AVPN would like to do much more of and engage more with. And finally, within our own membership, actually look at forming groups that can actually go deeper and have a more wider discussion on specific interests. So we would like to engage with all of you on all of these levels, and hope to welcome you to the network. Doug is really a visionary and a deep thinker when it comes to the sector. And these are some of the thoughts that he had wanted to share with you. So I'm not going to actually read through them, but I think a lot of them are very clear. And it's something that I would urge all of you to keep in mind as you meet people and as you go to the sessions today and tomorrow. Finally, I think what's most important is do network, do say hi, say hello, and have fun while you're here and you're learning. So once again, a very warm welcome. We're looking at, over the next 2 days, welcoming almost 650 people here from 39 different countries. And it's our first conference outside Singapore. And we're very, very grateful to Hong Kong Poly University for hosting us and inviting us here, and to the SIE Fund for making it possible. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Naina. So before we move on to our panel discussion, can we actually just have everyone turn to their left and just smile at the person next to them? And then turn to the right and smile at the person next to them? The reason why I do this is because a lot of times you're sitting next to people and you never really get their name, or you don't even get a chance to smile at them. So now I want to invite the speakers for the next panel discussion up on stage. It'll be moderated by Christian Silos, who co-leads the OCCI research project at the Stanford Center on Philanthropy and Civil Society, and Watana Petersic of Asia Capital Advisory, Johan Anderson of FIRD, Kim Salkild of Efficiency Unit, and K. Anil Kumar of Axis Bank Foundation. This panel will explore the role of social innovation in addressing the challenges of sustainable livelihood. Can we please give them a round of applause?
Good morning, everyone. I have a problem with mics because I grew up at the border between Italy and Austria, and we like to use our hands a lot when we talk, so I'm stiffening up when I have a mic in my hand, so forgive me for that. I'm delighted that so many of you came here to help us think through this important and impressive topic of social innovation and sustainable livelihoods. And I feel very, very honored about moderating a panel of experts who will share their thoughts and experiences and insights and shed some light on this topic. It is a very broad topic. In fact, it is a topic of a whole conference rather than a single panel. But we will try to give it some focus. The topic also is a reminder, at least for me, that maybe it is time to go beyond the ideology of social innovation is good and more social innovation is better, and ask some constructive, critical questions. What are the circumstances under which social innovation makes a contribution to sustainable livelihoods? How can we think about productive social innovation? It's really about evaluating the term social innovation from its potential and the potential impact it can make in changing people's lives to the better. So this is a little bit the focus of our panel. But before we start, I want to give you voice. I want to open the panel to you first and select your thoughts and your questions in an initial round that then our panel members will address and answer before we start with the more organized panel discussion. So I'm inviting all of you now to share your ideas and your spontaneous thoughts, your questions, concerns, hopes, and dreams about this topic, and we will address them in our discussion. who has enough energy this early in the morning to share something or ask something to our panel members? Great, wonderful. We have a microphone, I understand, or maybe I do. Well.
Good morning, I'm Raman. Just a quick question. So the topic is social innovation and sustainable livelihood. So I suspect there is a distance to travel from innovation to sustainable livelihood. And I wonder if somebody has that framework of application of the social innovation that gets to sustainable livelihood. Because I think those two words are poles apart if you really look at it from a continuum. So that's interesting to know.
Great, 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 wonderful. Who else wants to share some thought or some question? Please. We have more questions. Yes.
Sari Rankin from the 1020 Foundation in Australia, and it's really just a question about different roles that are played across that spectrum of social innovation through to impact and sustainability, and in particular the role of government and the public sector in supporting and actually undertaking innovation.
Thank you very much for that. Any other thoughts, views, questions, concerns? Please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Pratibha. It's just a quick question that I wanted to ask, and I would request if you could throw a little light on it while you're talking. So I feel that social innovation, standing alone, cannot, because I come from India, I feel that it cannot really only lead to sustainable development. So I'm sure you would have planned to talk about the linkages linkages within various sectors and how those linkages lead to sustainable development, but just pointing that out because I am really interested to know about it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Great. We have one more.
My question is between means and ends, between the whatever mechanism, venture philanthropy, social enterprise, fundraising techniques, and the social impact. Which part should we focus? Because it seems to me that during this conference we are talking more on social impact. So what is your concern?
Thank you very much. Okay. Any more?
As I understand it, there are a lot of key stakeholders, when you talk about social innovation and sustainability. I'd like to know of your opinion as to who at the end of the day should lead and drive it forward.
Thanks.
Hi. My question is that how we actually make sure that social innovation is actually can contribute to the sustainable livelihoods. What are the key factors that actually make it becoming a sustainable livelihood?
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands. And I will invite my fellow panelists here to address in a first round some of the questions that you've posed before we go into a more formal discussion about your experiences. And maybe I will just start with you, Vatanana, and just go along. Pick whatever question you want to address.
Hello? Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm married to someone who's from the same region of the world as Christian, so I promise not to run up and down the aisles, though I may move my microphone about a bit, so you better warn me if I start doing that. Actually, part of my formal presentation, if you want to call it that, is about this whole linkage Is there a linkage always between social innovation and sustainable livelihoods? Because in the work that I've done a little bit, what I've seen, we tend to think of social innovation as something new and exciting, but actually social innovation in the field of sustainable livelihoods has been around for decades, actually probably centuries. And even when you look at something like the Ashoka Global Fellowship list of fellows, a number of those fellows have been involved in this whole area of sustainable livelihoods. But a key question, so there's been a lot of innovation, but one of the key questions I know for Ashoka in the past, and for many others, is why does that social innovation not always lead to sustainability, i.e. you get social innovators who are continually dependent annually on grants and trying to get funding and making the model sustainable, or scale? Because when we're talking livelihoods, what we're really talking about is trying to raise people to a certain standard of living on a large scale. And that, for me, is the key to this debate. Now, we'll go through the reasons for that, I think, a little bit later. But I think that is one of the key questions posed on this topic.
Hi, I'm Kim Solgeld. I work for the Hong Kong government, so perhaps I can address the question of the role. Sorry, I must have switched the mic off. Apologies. As you can see, I'm not too good with technology. What I can perhaps address is the role of government and the question of who should lead. And very often people say, oh, government should be the leader. We want heroic leadership to solve social problems and other things. And in a way, yes, I think that the fundamental role of government is setting direction and enabling other people to act effectively. And I think that the most effective way that governments can think about that is not using the term leadership, but learning. Creating frameworks that enable public servants to learn from what's happening in the NGO sector and from business, to enable business to engage with governments and NGOs, to learn about what does it mean to create sustainable businesses, and frameworks that bring academic research and students who are interested and passionate into connection with entrepreneurs who know what it means, the disciplines that you have to go through to create something that's going to be really sustainable and create lasting value for people. And above all, frameworks that make civil servants, business people, academics, people who feel that they've got great amounts of knowledge and ought to be exercising leadership, to pause a bit and think, what is it that the people in the community actually understand by all of this and want to know? So, fundamentally, government's role is to enable all actors in the community to work together effectively.
I'm from Norway, which is by some recognized as a reasonably developed welfare state. So if I may also venture into the role of government for a second. So why would social innovation be needed in a very advanced welfare state? For the exact same reason as it's needed in perhaps emerging large one-party state like China. We had the discussion yesterday. What's the role of, or what's the issue on face saving when it comes to promoting social innovation to a strong one-party state? Well, there's no way that even a very advanced state can be a great risk taker, a great innovator, nor can they be a great entrepreneur. So whether you're a welfare state or other type of state, you have the exact same need of innovation coming from somewhere else. It will not come from within. So that's one point on the role of government. The other point on the link from innovation to sustainability, the link is simply to do it. If you have a solution that you think is 75% good, you go with it. Don't expect to have a perfect solution to make the link. You'll fix the 25%, or you'll be close enough, and you'll probably be closer than most other people simply because you do it. Now, I found myself sitting between a brother and a sister, and they've been on drugs for their whole life, and 2 days later, he was dead. Now, we talked yesterday about that there's enough money around. Yes, money is the commodity, and time is not. So time is the scarcity. So if you want to make the connection, you have to act.
Thank you so much for that initial round, and thanks for pumping some energy in our discussion up front. Let me start with you, Kim. You are heading a task force within the government in Hong Kong on the issue of social innovation and sustainable livelihoods. We'd be interested in how does your approach to this topic differ from more traditional approaches of the government and the philanthropic sector that have for many, many years invested in this question of how to create more sustainable livelihoods. How do your assumptions and your approaches differ? And do you see your task force playing a role as supporting existing initiatives, or are you in fact a pilot within the government that shows a new way, a more effective way potentially of how to think about the link between action and impactful outcomes?
Just to give people a picture, in 2012, the government here, the new administration, re-established a commission on poverty. And one of the things they decided to do was to set up under that commission a task force specifically on social innovation and entrepreneurship development to increase the diversity of actions that were being taken. There are other programs that have increased funding for social enterprises and NGOs. We're not seeking to replicate or add to that. The mission that we've been given is to try and use a pot of money. 500 million has been pledged from the Lotteries Fund. So far, the Lotteries Fund has given us 100 million to distribute. And how to spend that money effectively to increase the diversity of activities, the supporting ecosystem to bring social innovation and social entrepreneurs to help address the raft of social problems in Hong Kong. And part of what the Commission on Poverty was trying to do was to say that very often people have thought of Hong Kong as an extremely rich place. This is a place that we should raise money to go and spend in China, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, other places where there is more poverty. And trying to get people to understand there are huge issues of disparity in wealth, disparity in opportunity in Hong Kong that also need to be addressed if this society is to remain a successful and effective society. And through learning how to meet up to the challenges of sustainability and creating communities that put value on every life in the society, create a model of a city that can then be shared across the region and across the world. Now, my unit that I run is the government's internal management consultancy arm. So suddenly to be told in 2012, you will go and find a way to encourage social innovation and entrepreneurship outside government was quite a challenge for us. So I come back to my earlier point about the importance of learning. Now, yesterday you heard Ada Wong saying, oh, the SIE Fund has done good things, but you're not spending money fast enough. Please go and spend more. Partly, we have influence, and we can convene meetings like this and bring people in to discuss things because they know that we've got some money. People are interested in getting it. I'm much more interested in those conversations and learning from it what we can do more effectively. And one of the things we learnt early on is there are lots of philanthropists, venture philanthropists, financial institutions who'd actually like to make investments in things. And if we step in and start investing in startup projects and so on, you take away pipeline. So rather than us doing that, we thought, well, how could we help increase the pipeline of ideas that are coming forward that then might give attraction to philanthropists and venture to put money into? How could we increase the capacity within Hong Kong as a society to understand what social innovation is, to apply it to existing business, and from that supporting structure, enable investors, venture philanthropists to do more and to grow the sector. So that's the first area we have been putting some money into, matching grants to help scale up some incubators and scale up funding systems and capacity building programs. We've also been thinking, well, we shouldn't just be trying to create new little startups, which are always very risky things. How do we challenge all existing companies to rethink the way they do business? Rather than dumping social and environmental costs on the rest of the community for government to clean up through taxation and other things, how do you rework the way that business operates so that it creates greater social and environmental value as well as business return? The whole idea of shared value. So that's a line we've been pushing. Also, how can we be a convener to bring together foundations who are interested in particular social issues, companies who are interested in making investments in those areas, government departments and NGOs who've been struggling for a long time with issues, to share information, do some research, map out where there are gaps that business might try and address, that foundations might try and address, start some projects, and then share the learning over time to see if we can scale it up. So the whole theory of collective impact approaches. And the first one that we've got up and running on that is looking at early childhood education, preschool education. We're looking at other areas, elderly, the rapidly aging demographic in Hong Kong is putting huge pressures, not just on services for the elderly, but again, every company having to think about how they can support people of working age who are also facing the burdens of care for elderly dependents and educating their children in quite a difficult environment. But the whole way that businesses have to operate to try and support people, these are things where we're challenging companies to come and act. The area we're now looking at, two areas we're looking into. One is how we can help catalyze, again, investors, venture philanthropy, to look at how to provide working capital to help scale operations up. And we're thinking about what our fund could do to start triggering more people to come into that area. And the second is there's a vast amount of knowledge and capacity in the universities. How to bring it out of individual institutions to share it more widely and connect universities up with the entrepreneurs. Because very often, young students, they're very enthusiastic, but they don't have the skills that the entrepreneurs have and the discipline to turn ideas into real ventures. So can we create infrastructure connections that marry these two areas up?
Kim, a lot of the time, entrepreneurs and innovators, and that is me now speaking because I spend a lot of time in Silicon Valley. We have thousands of inspiring young entrepreneurs that come from a solutions and technology-driven focus. Problems are just the annoying things that stand in the way of their wonderful technical solutions. I hear you talk about this wonderful notion of bringing the social back into social innovation, which also means having a very people-centered approach towards understanding problems more deeply. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how you think about problems and before you jump to designing solutions?
I think that my best way into that is all of us here today, if we look at talk about social innovation and sustainable livelihoods probably have a reasonable level of understanding of what those terms mean. I mean, there may be some differences of interpretation, but we could all have a conversation about it and understand each other. If you or I went down the road to Tai Kok Choi or Mong Kok and started to talk to people on the streets about social innovation and sustainable livelihoods, they probably wouldn't know what we were talking about. It wouldn't be relevant to their lives. And again, any social innovation has to be addressing a problem or a frustration that ordinary people have in their lives. And giving voice to the poor, just as we've given voice to you in the questions, is a key thing for getting people to think about, well, what is an innovation that's actually going to help these people? So, from the whole area of design, you've got the idea of user-centered design, sitting down with the people who are actually going to be using that service or product to think how would it work. More, I think that the whole idea of the social lab, to get the academics, the entrepreneurs, out of their office and idea space and onto the streets where lonely elderly, street sleepers, drug addicts actually are, and talk to them not as problems, but as people, just like us, to tell their stories, let us know their priorities, their understanding, so that we then are better able to think, what is it that we might be able to do that is helping these people address their problems? And then once we've thought up an idea, go back to them, check, does it actually make sense to them? And that discipline of creating a connection and a conversation with the people you're trying to serve, it is, I think, vital to effective services, whether they're delivered by government, by a business, or an NGO. But so often we get wrapped up in the bureaucracy of how do we get the money out, or as a company grows, the internal process of the company can tend to militate against the purpose of the service or the product you're giving. And getting always that reality check back with the people is so important. And there, we've done quite a lot of encouragement to go out and find good techniques of that social engagement, social lab. Bring them here, try them out. Ada Wong yesterday with Good Lab, she didn't talk about it. She has been the pioneer in bringing a group from Holland, Kennisland, Knowledge Land, who've learnt the practices of getting out onto the streets. How do you get a team of people to understand difficult social issues and to see the diversity that there are, even within a single problem like street sleeping or drug addiction? That there isn't just one solution to that problem. There are many different ways that you have to come at it. And anyway, that then leads back to me why it's important for social innovation and for governments to be encouraging businesses and NGOs to engage in it. Because that experimentation and learning to meet the diversity of human need is so much more effective in a complex society than sort of single large-scale programs being driven either by big NGOs or by government itself.
Thank you very much, Kim. Vatana, let me engage you in the conversation. You are wearing many hats, from private sector experience in financing and banking towards advising governments. You wear a research and then an academic hat, and a number of others. We want to tap into the broadness of your experience and therefore broaden the notion of social innovation a little bit. Very often social innovation is good at solving concrete local problems, but how can we move beyond solving problems towards changing the systems that seem to recreate and sustain the same problems over and over again? Right? There's a question of stocks and flows. If you solve problems, you're not getting what you're trying to achieve if we create the problems faster than anyone can solve them. So we need to start thinking a little bit about systems change as well. What is your experience in our efforts, but also in the hurdles that prevent us from making progress, going from social innovation to systems change and making progress there?
That's a pretty big question. And I guess what Christian is saying is, I'm not really an expert in anything, but I see a little bit all over the place. So I'll give it from that perspective. You know, when we talk about social innovation addressing problems, I do go back to Ashoka, because one of their key tenets, and they were one of the originators of the term social entrepreneur, is what problem is this person trying to solve, and what is the innovation that they've come up with to address it. So it's very based out of an analysis of a problem. And the one phrase I hear most frequently from the good ones is, I saw this problem and I couldn't not do anything about it. It's a real people-centered approach to it. But what happens with a lot of these, I call them traditional social entrepreneurs, is they can address that problem, but that problem usually exists in a multitude of problems. So they end up becoming serial entrepreneurs. They end up trying to solve a multitude of problems, and the innovations they have don't necessarily become either sustainable, they pop up, disappear, come back, and they don't become, they cannot be applied, or they don't figure out the ways they can be applied to a broader audience than their immediate community. And I think this is one of those things about when we talk about this equation, social innovation to sustainable livelihoods, what holds that back? I think in the one instance, it's one that's common to all social innovators, not just in the area of livelihoods, and that's the lack of access to professional skills and expertise in building out organizations and models to make an entity sustainable and to grow it. I think that's common to a lot of social innovation enterprises. Where it's specific to livelihoods, I would say, is there's another external factor. Naina talked about the car, finance being the engine in the car, and that's the financial capital, with the human capital being the driver. To get to sustainable livelihoods, you need a road to drive that car on. You need road maps, you need Google Maps or whatever it is you need. You need a destination, you need a market, right? Usually when we talk about sustainable livelihoods, you're producing goods and services for a market. So there are many multiple interventions which the traditional social entrepreneur, social innovator probably doesn't have what we call the social capital in the AVPN rubric to access. All the knowledge ranging from how to ensure supply inputs, to building out the supply chain, to building a market for their goods and services. You may think organic foods is an easy sell when it's priced at 30% premium in the market. You have to build a market for it, recognition of the good of that project. Or local-based community tourism. You have to make people understand what's engaging about it. So you need a whole set of interventions. And I think that's one of the key things that's holding back social innovations from going to sustainable livelihoods, is that people tend to focus on the innovation, on the car, maybe on the driver, but not on building out all this ecosystem that is needed to take it there. And not all of them will get there, but for the ones that have the potential, I think we need to put more money and thought into building that. Monitor produced a very good report in 2014, so this is not an innovative idea. I'm just sort of, rethinking old ones. Called Beyond the Pioneer, and they talk about that, about why inclusive businesses don't scale. And it's because you need to build this ecosystem which takes many participants. And they talk about industry facilitators, which can be anyone from development agencies to donors. And they raise which one for me, which is a very interesting one in the context of livelihoods, which is companies and businesses. Because when you think about it, in building out a sustainable business, guaranteeing livelihoods, that is building a business. So businesses have many of the resources and skill sets required to help build this ecosystem. But especially in my area of the world, the relationship between business and the social sector is not a smooth one. It's often filled with mistrust and others. So this whole business participation in helping solve social problems is an area I'm glad that AVPN is going to focus on, because it holds so much potential, but has also so many bumps on the road. So just lastly, I'll mention also, because the theme of this whole conference is how has social investing impacted Asia. And I would say that over the last few years, it's been really exciting to watch the new forms of social investment that has come up. But if I have a slight hesitation with it, is a lot of it has gone to innovation, to financing innovations, which is sexy and what people are interested in, and it makes a good story. And perhaps not enough of it has gone into this hard work of building markets, of making sure things get delivered on time, of building that whole ecosystem, including just very basic things. I'm glad Kim mentioned this. Working capital, including grant funding, because when you produce goods and services for a market, you need to ensure that it's of a certain standard. You need training programs, which usually cannot be supported by an early stage business model. So we need to be perhaps more inclusive, even in our view of how social investment works in the region, and be more generous towards the more boring side of it.
Thank you very much for that. I'm picking up on the boring side of that now, which I find fascinating. In fact, I've been studying boring organizations for a long time now that are doing routine work and therefore deliver high quality, very reliable products and services to communities, and all the impact that creates as well. But I want to build on your argument that, you know, there is still a little bit of a notion in heroizing leaders, individuals, the heropreneur, social entrepreneurs as heroes, leaders as heroes, while I think in fact many of the problems under the notion of sustainable livelihoods or other problems that we care about in society require organizations who can execute and productively take on problems at the appropriate scale. And I want to, you know, explore a little bit this notion of organizations, and thereby bring in Johan with his experience. Johan is an amazing person because he has, you know, for me, he has two hearts beating in his chest. On the one hand, Johan is managing one of the largest family-owned business groups in Norway. On the other hand, Johan has this strong and passionate willingness and desire to support social enterprises in his work at the same time. So I would like to understand a little bit from your experience, Johan, how can we help organizations to be productive, to scale well, and to create more impact? How do you go about working with social enterprises? How can you best support them? We would be delighted if you shared some insights from your work on that.
Thank you. I think basically you're most effective if you supply what you're best at. If you try to be a social worker and you're not, well, you don't have that street cred. Sorry. So and neither do we. What we do, we scale businesses. That's what we do. We invest in companies. We're a group with assets around $3 billion. We own 8 operating companies. We have 6 business areas with financial investments as well as industrial investments. And we decided that if we were to be effective, we would need to internalize. We would need to set up an internal business area dedicated to scaling social entrepreneurs. So not a foundation, you know, not on the outside, not sort of Johan's playground, no, a core issue, a core problem, something that we really cared about, that the company cared about, and therefore we needed to have it inside. Now, of course, the first thing, if you ask one of your advisors, well, actually, don't ask one of your advisors, because because they don't have the manual for that. You know, the manual is to put it in the foundation. So if you ask them for advice, ask them how to do it in the most effective way by leveraging all my company's resources or the family office resources. And don't start with a foundation as the only way of doing it. Now, so what do we actually supply to them? We supply to them exactly the same as we supply to any other company that we own. We treat these social entrepreneurs as investments. Whether we allocate equity, soft loans, grants, guarantees, we use the whole scale. We treat them as investments. So we do 3-year commitments with them, and we select them based on whether they have a truly innovative solution that has the potential to make a real impact. It should be scalable, i.e. it should not be dependent on one single person. And hopefully it can actually be measurable to the extent that they can create a sustainable company, i.e. they get paid for the service that they deliver. And let me just mention one example, which is sort of I wouldn't call it a classical social entrepreneur, but it's one that you can actually employ tomorrow. You could employ it in Hong Kong. You could employ it maybe in a part of Hong Kong. You could employ it in Kowloon or actually perhaps on this campus. And it deals with autism. I don't know if you noticed that The Economist had on the front page, they actually had an issue dedicated to autism, and it said, "Beautiful minds wasted." And the basic premise of this social entrepreneur, which we've been backing and we now invested equity in, is that he recognized that people with light autism have some unique skills. But those skills are exactly the skills that puts them out of school, out of work, on welfare, because there's some social things that they really can't figure out, which makes them insecure, and they withdraw. So there was 19 people, 18 boys, who were put through the system, 3 months of training, and now they're the best software testers that you can think of. And of the 19, 10 got their own apartment. They moved away from mom and dad. They're living on their own. 2 even had their first date. And 1 of the 2 actually got married. So how's that for impact? So this has nothing to do with me, because I didn't really understand anything about light autism, but we understood something about what this chap needed. He needed something about governance, he needed capital, he needed access to some good resources on scaling. So we didn't pretend that we were very good at anything else than scaling. So that's what we did. And I think the benefits from doing it inside a company rather than on the outside are the following. 1, you get access to all the company's resources. I mean, all of them. I mean, in my case, it means all the 15,000 employees and all the operating companies, in theory. Not because I call the shots, but because they think it's important, and because I call the shots. But 2, it actually carries the same name as the company. So we're flying under the same flag, we're sailing under the same flag, which gives all the social entrepreneurs the same credibility as though they would be an operating company in our portfolio. So they get immediate traction, doors open immediately for them, which otherwise would take a long time. I have 2 daughters, and what do you think is the easiest way to understand how a large company operates? It's to understand how we create value for a small social entrepreneur. It's much easier to understand the way we shift the youth from being outside work to inside work, out of school, back to school, than building a large ship or a platform or something like that. So bringing the next gens on, I hope there's some next gens in the room, and this is the really key for moms and dads to bring next gens on board, is to actually let them understand and let them take a part in this sort of impact investment, call it social investment, social entrepreneur scaling, but let them do it as owners, not as playing around in a money dump outside somewhere where they can't do any harm. They will do harm. They will make mistakes. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Because otherwise you can't make an impact, not on society and not on themselves. So I would really encourage you to do that. And for the very cynical ones, you could say, well, what does it have to do with the company? Does it benefit the company as such? I will mention only one thing, and that is that we have started noticing, this was not our intent, that we're recruiting differently. And not because we're looking for different people, but because they're looking for different companies, which is kind of strange. But we've noticing that the very best people, you know, the one with the best experience, the best competence, the most potential, and the best set of values that matches ours, in the end, we don't select them, they select us. And that is sort of a revelation that I just noticed the last couple of years, because it turns out that they have choices. They could go elsewhere. I mean, they could actually go to Apple or Google or Facebook or Shell or whatever, and we're fighting with those guys. We're not fighting with perhaps, you know, some other small company. So we need them to select us, and sometimes they actually do select us, not because we have the best opportunities, we do, not because we have the best compensation packages, we don't, but we have a package. And I think the package is based on values rather than things that they can't find elsewhere. So I think that, and I think the values, what values the company has, what values the shareholders, the owners, the board has, that allows you to incorporate a social impact strategy, a social investment strategy, social investment inside the company. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. That was wonderful. Spontaneous applause is always a good sign. Anil, let me come to you. We've talked about a lot now about entrepreneurs and social innovation, organizations, scaling, replication. We've covered a lot of ground in a very short time already. I want to link back to the notion of sustainable livelihoods. In India, which is the context of your work, the notion of sustainable livelihoods probably has a slightly different meaning and might also have different challenges in achieving it than Hong Kong or in Norway. You know, particularly issues of social exclusion based on gender and caste membership creates unique challenges for innovators and entrepreneurs on how to deal with those problems. Do you want to share a little bit about the work that you are doing and the insights that you've made on, you know, what might just work on those problems and what can we learn from that?
Good morning. My name is Anil Kumar. I represent Axis Bank Foundation based in Mumbai, India. India is a large country, not necessarily geographically, but population-wise, it's pretty large. People is our strength, also its weakness. To put in context the disparity between the rest of the world and India, US today is debating minimum wage levels of $12 per hour, $96 per day. In India, a typical poor household can look forward to income levels of, I get the rupee numbers first, let me translate into dollars, about $20 to $30 a month. Most of the households try to survive with those kind of money, which provides them clearly one meal a day, two optionally, and very rarely 3 meals. That is where we come in. There is poverty in various parts of India, but in the central dry lands is where the poverty is most manifest. Not by choice, but by compulsions of the deal which is available in that part of the country. It's dry, rainfall is low. If you look at rainfall, average rainfall in India, it's about 1000 mm. But in these parts, it's actually much lower at maybe about 700, 600. And in certain districts, it's even 300 mm per annum. I'm talking about per annum. So apparently the economic activity is very nominal. The principal economic activity intended is agro-based, but agriculture itself is at threat in many cases. Because of the policies of the government, in many states there is a Land Reforms Act under which land is distributed to the landless largely. And the tribal people have land holdings of about 1 acre to 5 acres, small and marginal farmers. But then to eke out a living, they have to look at unskilled labor and agricultural labor. Again, that is where we come in. We try to, through our interventions, try to make sure that the farmers, the landholders who are actually working as laborers are provided facilities to become farmers first. When we try to do that through better farming practices and things like that, we realized that there is no water for them to practice agriculture. So then we had to also offer water solutions through water harvesting methods and relate watershed management programs and things like that. So at one end we start with watershed and rainwater harvesting, and then we provide better farming practices. We give agriculture inputs. We get commodity aggregation done for them, and also we provide at the farthest end market linkages. It's a long chain. While doing that, we try to see whether we can do it largely with women members. Professor was actually referring to gender bias. Gender justice is a key element of our programs. We try to make sure that 60% of our beneficiaries are women. In the Indian context, probably in most of the poor countries in the world, when men get money, about 50-60% is spent on him and on them, and the rest of it goes to the family. But women get money, most of it goes to the family. So we try to focus on women for this. This is one aspect. And the other, in one of my meetings with a set of women, I asked them, how have you benefited from our engagement with you? She said, the fact that I'm sitting in front of you suggests that we have benefited. We are not permitted to speak to men outside our family. And then today we are sitting with you and discussing our problems, which is a significant improvement that has come about, which is reflective of what kind of results that are coming in. Going back to the economic aspect, we are looking at, I indicated $20 to $30 as the income levels per month. We try to make sure that the income goes up by minimum 50% during the graduation period of 2 years for them. And we are also trying to see that the income goes up, if possible, to about $100 in the month, which is actually taken as at a portfolio level as an aspirational number, which is a far cry from the baseline levels that we see generally. We have a target, we have a mission of actually help create 1 million livelihoods by 2017 end. We have covered about 660,000 till last month. We might fall short of the million that we are targeting by the end of 17 December, but we are trying to, but we are very keen that those whom we are impacting are impacted reasonably well, and in the process, nobody is left behind in the target group. So we are not a very old organization. We have been functioning for about 10 years now. We started with livelihood, with education as a focus, not the mainstream education, but education, the remedial education, the supplementary education, the special education and all that. But down the line, about 5-6 years later, we realized that while education continues to be important in the Indian context, one crying need is creating livelihoods. And if you create livelihoods, we provide livelihoods to households, naturally education is also taken care of, because the first dose of income that comes into the household after meeting the sustenance requirements actually goes into into education. The empirical data justifies that. So we moved into livelihood. Between 2011 and 2015, we did both education and livelihood, and from 15 onwards, we are focusing sharply on livelihoods.
Anil, I looked at recent data from India. It's fascinating to see that the Indian government is spending around $32 billion annually on various development and livelihood efforts. The traditional philanthropic spending in this area is about $8 billion per year. Impact investment is approximately 0.3 billion. It is very, very small. There has recently been a Companies Act that prescribes Indian for-profit companies to spend a certain percentage of their pre-tax profits to spend on CSR activities. Do you see this as an opportunity of fueling the nascent, evolving impact investment scene, or what is happening in this area?
The legislation by design is a landmark legislation, well intended. But responses from some of the corporates have not been very encouraging. At one end, there are corporates which are believing that the profit they are generating should actually be going to its stakeholders. And in their definition, stakeholder is actually the guy who's invested and the employees. And it's customers perhaps. But they don't consider the community as its stakeholder. As a result, they are unwilling to share at one end. The other is that as long as my benefit is, my business is benefited, I will share this. Or whatever I do should support my business. In the process, what they try to do is they are trying to camouflage the business expenses as CSR expenses. These are the initial response from some of the corporates. In the last year, when it was reported for the first time, the first year numbers came in 14-15, the overall expenditure is far less than 1% against the intended 2%. This 2% is actually not mandatory. It's a guidance number. We're expected to invest up to 2%, spend up to 2% in the sector. Now, but as it progresses over the next 3-4 years, my assumption is that there would be greater monitoring of these spends, and corporates may be directed to meaningfully spend money in the sector. And I would assume that if the estimated numbers are right, $3 to $5 billion is being talked about as the incremental number that needs to be spent. My understanding is that this is a very, very welcome measure by the government, and this will bring in considerable amount of flow into the sector. The challenge these corporates might face in this space is that they may not find enough credible implementing partners to receive this funding. Because of that, initially, many well-meaning corporates have actually directed these funds into the Prime Minister's Relief Fund, which is also considered CSR. So easy way out, give it to the government. Only thing is that it's like a black hole. You don't know how the money is getting spent. But no, I don't mean it the wrong way. But then again, there is some imperviousness about the utilization of funds there. But a considerable amount of money has already been diverted into that. But I think over the medium term, this will get evened out, and large amounts of money is likely to flow into the sector.
So thank you for this first round of discussions. We will soon open the forum for your thoughts and questions, but there are so many more fascinating things we want to discuss. One of the things, of course, is, are we making progress? You know, from an Asian perspective, are we getting better at creating sustainable livelihoods in different contexts? What is missing? What are opportunities for entrepreneurs, innovators, funders, and businesses to get in to this hypothesis that smart action will in fact create more sustainable and better livelihoods for people? Where do you see the opportunity spaces for making progress going forward? Is it on the social innovation side? Is it on the policy side? Is it on the business side? Where do you see potential? Who wants to start? You.
It's about Asia, so it's you guys.
That was a nice punt. I think there is progress. I think at a minimum there's growing awareness, I think, that at least in the part of Asia that I come from, that where traditionally social problems have been the purview of government, I think there has been a change in mentality that there needs to be more collaborative efforts going forward. Now, whether this is in the area of social innovation and bring social innovation to sustainable livelihoods, that's a big area of it in the part of the world I come from, because while perhaps not quite as poor as India, we have a problem of wide-ranging, let's say, low income levels. So there have been more attempts to have more actors involved in this whole area. And one encouraging note has been the growth of business interest in this whole area of social innovation and more broadly the area of creating better lives and opportunities for the people in the country. The issue is, I think, both business and social innovators are stumbling around how they work together, what kind of models of engagement work, and also to have engagement on an equal basis. You know, someone asked who should lead. I think who should lead is Plato would say it's a wrong question, by the way. They would say, I think the answer today is more, how can we work together? Clearly, in some instances, there has to be a clear leader, but because of the complexity of problems nowadays, to say the government is a leader, business is a leader, that's going to come out with lopsided answers and probably not comprehensive solutions to problems. So I would say that there is progress in awareness. There's more progress in the resources being put into it. There's a lot of innovations coming up, but I think where more innovation is needed is innovations in the way people work together to come up with sustainable solutions to social problems. So creating models of how different parts of society work together to build sustainable livelihoods and other answers to social problems. I think at least in Thailand, just a specific example, the Security Exchange of Thailand has basically told all its listed companies, your priority is to go out and figure out how you're going to get engaged in social issues, and they've got a new separate section of reporting, et cetera, so that there's definitely a top-down as well as a bottoms-up movement, I think, emerging in a lot of Asia.
I think the point that Johan made earlier, the key thing is the most important thing is to invest time. If you're not prepared to invest the time, it doesn't matter how much money you'll throw in, it's unlikely you'll get both the connection and the ability to see, have you really changed the opportunities that somebody else has? Certainly working from within government, there's been so much of a focus over the last 30 years, both in Hong Kong, New Zealand, other places, on how do you drive efficiency? You know, get more output for less input. But if you're going to work with people, you cannot just deal with it as cheaply as possible. You've got to invest time in listening, in learning, and enabling. And that requires different structures. And I would say, I see in the corporate sector in Hong Kong really significant signs of progress. And just the other day I was with the airport authority, and they're thinking about how do you change away from CSR to creating a social investment policy that supports the business of the airport authority and all the other companies working on the airport island through supporting the community of Hong Kong to create added value. Now that 5-6 years ago wasn't happening, but it's really been very exciting for me coming, again, when we got this job 3.5 years ago, I thought, oh, we're going to have to start from scratch. But very rapidly, we found thought leaders in business, we found the AVPN network, lots of people out there starting to do things, partners we could work with. And I think that just of stepping out of your office and seeing how much interest there is, I think, with the younger generation coming up through the universities, huge willingness with the established business community, huge understanding of what it means to create a viable business. Putting the two together, the skills and experience that business have got with the enthusiasm and the understanding of the need to experiment, to create new patterns of creating wealth in a community that don't undermine both the environment and the society that makes a city worth living in. And that's a really exciting area to be working in, and it's a delight to see it going on. Learning how government can support that is actually quite tricky. Government is used to big conventional programs with sort of 19th, early 20th century structures. Again, learning what it's like to operate in this sort of highly connected, very rapidly changing world is tricky for us, but it's exciting learning as well. It's good to see it going on.
Personally, I don't expect government to take leadership in social innovation. Internet was not invented by the government. Great innovations in the world have not come from the government. Government can at best facilitate innovation. The social innovation to me has to actually come from enlightened social leaders, which has been the case. And social innovation is, I don't think, like it was mentioned earlier, I don't think it is new. It has been there for ages. Only the pace of innovation probably has to get accelerated. Now, if you see the civilizations over the years, over the centuries, the pace of improvement, from in the last 1,000 years, bulk of it happened in the last 100 years. And in the current century, also, what happened in the last 100 years would have already happened in the last 15, 16 years. So this increase in pace is what is expected in social innovation as well. What is required is the appropriate partnership between enlightened social leaders and the businesses and the government providing the required facilitation role. And the businesses, I find that we have a good number of social investors in this group here, but they are into it apparently for the required returns. Now, you will also find investors with larger money bags stepping in provided they see benefit, commercial benefit in this. So an opportunity, a platform where government support is available, the social content is there, and the required return is there, then I think that is where the takeoff will really happen. So I would expect governments to provide the required facilitation push to this sector.
Johan, Norway, of course, is not fully innocent, right? For example, I remember the Norwegian Development Agency co-investing in a fabulous project that I started in Bangladesh in the 1990s, helping Telenor from Norway to build a whole new market on mobile phone technology. And in that joint business model with the Grameen Bank, they've created about 400,000 jobs in some of the poorest villages in Bangladesh. So I think there are, of course, ways in which also our Western countries can bring resources and expertise and momentum towards the idea of sustainable development or sustainable livelihoods in developing countries. Are your social entrepreneurs that you are supporting, how much do they think outside of the Norwegian context? How many of them internationalize, for example? Is this a topic that you see?
Well, actually, we have two impact investment strategies. One is actually a large microfinance fund that I initiated together with the government of Norway, but I don't really have time to go into that now. It's about 7, 8 years old. As far as the social entrepreneurs, we always look for solutions that have an international potential. But often the challenge is that you actually need people on the ground in another country to actually make it work. So what we're looking for, if you sort of do the pitch here, we're actually looking for other type of businesses, other type of family offices who says, well, I kind of like your approach. I like a couple of your social entrepreneurs. Is it, can we share? Of course you can share, that's the whole point. You can actually steal with pride as it goes. I put out a tweet on the hashtag AVPN 2016. You can find a link there to our website. It lists all the social entrepreneurs, and you will probably find at least maybe one of them have the potential for scaling. Now, just mention one: crime. Crime is prevalent, right? And for some reason, young people who start crime early, they have a tendency to stay with the program if you don't get them out. They actually get educated quickly in prison. So the point is actually to keep them out of prison in the first place. And one of the ways to do that is to provide work. And sort of the worst work you can find kind of in Norway is to tear down bathrooms. It's really shitty work, and nobody really wants to do it. So we hire in Polacks and whatever. But people who have a large amount of aggression, they will actually put under the commando of somebody who's actually been in prison. Actually, one of them actually killed a guy, which gives him a lot of cred. I'm not kidding even. He used to be a torpedo for the Bandidos motorcycle gang. Now, these young people, they really put all their life into the hands of these ex-criminals, but you have to provide them with work. I mean, you just can't let them just hang around and coach them. I mean, we were past coaching. We're into, getting something done. And the question, of course, then is, how does a company like mine give them work? And just one example, we have a real estate division. And I think real estate seems to be big around here. And we bought an office building, and we're turning it into apartments. Now, in order to do that, we need construction companies to come in and do it. So we put out a tender. We are going to do it. And in all the tenders, it's going to say, you have to employ, you have to have as a sub-supplier, this social entrepreneur who employs these guys who tears down bathrooms, right? So you put them all on an equal level, and everybody's a winner. Maybe maybe they screw up a little bit, maybe they're a little, over eager, so they're tears down a little bit more than they had intended. But I mean, that's fine. I mean, they'll learn. We learn. But the point is that you can actually integrate work into your company. As a company, you provide people work, right? So it's just a matter of who you provide the work to. And in this case, you actually facilitate it through a social entrepreneur. And I think that this is very easily applicable anywhere in the world. There's enough problems. There's enough criminals for everyone, to employ. Just employ them early. That's my advice.
No, you raised a wonderful subject, and that is what I take away from listening to you is, while it is okay to push more innovation and more novel experiments, we also need to make an effort to take stock of existing experiments around the world. There are many fascinating experiments that are going on at any given time. Maybe we need to invest a little bit more time and attention in understanding how they work, how they can be contextualized and adopted for other places, rather than just always inventing new recipes. And I'm also very grateful that the AVPN is also putting their research efforts towards, understanding case studies, taking stock of ongoing experiments. That is fantastic work that you're doing in this regard as well. But I want to open the floor now to our audience for a final set of questions and discussions. Please share with us, what did you take away from this session, if anything, but also what else you would like to discuss, or what concrete questions to have for our panelists. Please go ahead with your thoughts and questions. Who wants to go? This is safe environment, by the way.
Hi, my question's for Johan. I really enjoyed your point about really finding the values and the benefits in offering a values-based package to your employees. And I think you have a lot to offer in terms of experience to other corporates that may be considering engaging in such a practice. My question is, how can we encourage corporates and businesses to share the good work that they're doing and encourage other corporates and businesses that might be feeling nervous or reluctant to engage? How can we, I guess, create a better sharing environment? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't really have a sort of a common answer to that. But I think that sometimes the principal has to step forward. In this case, it's me. So if the principal spends time, and not money only, the principal has cred, street cred actually. So if you stand up and talk proudly about your failures, because there will be failures, about moments of, I don't know, sadness, but also about the joys of succeeding, of see people make better choices for themselves and their families. I know this is, this can quickly get sort of anecdotal. You tell stories and then you expect people to sort of get a beating heart and share and follow. But I think it's time, in many cases, for the principal, for the shareholder, for the CEO, the chairman, whatever, to say, this is something that I care about. And once other people in the companies understand, say, well, this is important. This is, then they start sharing too, and it quickly becomes a very good ripple effect. And it doesn't always need an organizer or an event. You can actually, when you have the company employees together, or you're in your meeting in your federation of your industry, suddenly you talk about this, and people go like, what? And so you have to actually surprise people in order to get to share these experiences, and something that works. We can always talk about frameworks, but corporates, we like to talk about things that actually function, and things that other people can do. So talk about those things. So yeah, I don't really have a one answer, but I think step forward and dare to be proud of what you're doing.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. So the social innovation or social enterprises, to me, it's still sounds to me that is a family-based or family-driven initiatives or individual-centered, but the potential is huge. And my question is that is I'm wondering that is whether how this is, that is the activities or initiatives being carried out under the banner of social innovation will be mainstreamed to the global processes. There was a question on sustainable development goals, that is, this is the global process, global goals being adopted by all 100, that is the member states of the United Nations. My question is that is how, is there any way to integrate this process with the global processes? Because if I take the example from Bangladesh, I'm from Bangladesh. The Bangladesh government, we are trying to mobilize resources for achieving the sustainable development goals. But we found that is the resource scarcity is a huge challenge, that is to achieve the sustainable development goals. So social innovation could be a big solution, but the question is that is how we can integrate the social innovations, or how social innovations, the activities of under social innovations can be mainstreamed with the global processes, or if we fail to mainstream them, then I think that there is a huge challenge, that is whether they will remain as a kind of stand-alone initiative being taken by some people or some families or some corporate bodies in the world. So this is a challenge that is, I think that is, we need to think about that is how we can better address this issue. Thank you.
I think I'd simply say I agree. It is a challenge. I'm not sure how the experience of working in government in Hong Kong could be translated to Bangladesh. I mean, your whole system of government and culture is very different. But one thing that does interest me, though, is seeing a huge social enterprise. By no means a family thing. This is a group that's now employing, as I understand it, around 10,000 people in Europe, has recently been looking at setting up a space in Hong Kong's Science Park to stimulate thought as to how technology can be used to social problems, and how their approach to a business that is a social enterprise could be spread more widely around the world. And I think when I read of large companies thinking, oh, how could you reinvent your business to work better in Indonesia, Burma, wherever, in a way that continues to create profit, but also helps to build the social capital and the greater capacity to grow social businesses in these areas, and seeing that it's worthwhile for business to make that kind of investment because it grows the market for themselves and for everybody. So I get the sense that that's going on. I get the sense that the business sees much more opportunity for that in places like Indonesia, Bangladesh, than in the rather difficult, sophisticated and rather small market of Hong Kong.
I'll give it a shot. I think it's beginning to happen. So when you talk about mainstreaming it into the global, more the global SDGs, right? It's not one stream, I think now. What it is there's big rivers, the big top-down efforts, but there's also these little streams feeding in on the side as well. And what's happening in certain places are, I don't want to bring up too much jargon, but there are these collective impact approaches, which I know is being pioneered in Malaysia, I think also in Hong Kong, right? Where a number of projects under a group of people, which could include government, social innovators, philanthropists, are addressing a particular issue, whether it's education or livelihoods, whatever. I think in Malaysia it's education. And so you have social innovation coming in and being expanded, and the same stream, social innovation can be worked into, if it's successful and demonstrated to be successful, it's mainstreamed into the government educational system. So there are beginning to be these little tributaries feeding into the mainstream of getting to the social development goals. I don't think you think of it as one track, but sort of as all little things coming in to feed. And I think it still comes back to this area of how do we get all these people working together so that you can really get synergies and adaptation on a wider scale of things that prove to be successful.
Right. Do we have, I think we have time for one more quick final question. Yes, please.
Good morning, I'm from Yangon, and I work for a women's empowerment project, and I also launched a women's social business in Yangon. So I wanted to just commend the representative from India who's made a very strong business case for why we should include a gender focus when we talk about innovation, business, and the transforming effects of having a target to include women in our work. I'm curious, I want to direct my question to the people working in Asia, Hong Kong, Thailand, and I'm curious when we talk about collective impact and working with a variety of partners, whether there is interest or you would see the potential to also include this kind of focus on working with women. From Hong Kong, you had mentioned about some of your work is looking at ECE, early childhood education, and issues around caring for the elderly. And we see again how women have very much led in terms of the caring economy in these kinds of issues. So I'm just curious if you could speak a little bit to how you might incorporate a focus on women in business when you talk about social innovation and sustainability. Thanks.
For, I think, effective innovation, you have to be bringing in all the voices, and that's women and business and the social workers and the government. As I said, creating a framework in which everybody feels that they can participate as equal partners. Above all, the people you're trying to reach, and quite often those are women. And I think some of the things I've seen yesterday, Francis, I was talking about the Light B project, how to create housing for single mothers to give them the ability to build up, invest in their children, have time, the social impacts that roll from that. Again, you have to understand what's in their hearts, and that means giving them opportunity to have voice as well. Without that, we can talk a lot about doing good, but if it doesn't get that feedback, it won't be as effective.
Thank you very much. And with that, I think that time is over, unfortunately. I wanted to thank Kim in particular for sponsoring and encouraging these sessions. Also the organizers, our panelists, and you as an audience, thank you for engaging with us, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks to everyone, and again, and have a great day, and much success in anything you're doing going forward. Thank you.
Wait. I have to take care of household matters. So, yeah, Doris, go ahead.
Just don't go away. We have some housekeeping to remind you guys. Please stay for just a few minutes, okay? I know the panel is a bit longer, but important. Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, hi. So, number one, we have a short networking break right.
Can you show some silence to listen to my MC partner to have some announcement which really important to your field days and like coming in Hong Kong, right?
So AVPN team, they'll be walking around with iPads, which is to do surveys. And it's very important for them to get feedback on the conference to make it better for the next year around. So ultimately, the surveys are to your benefit. Secondly, after the networking break, we'll have an investment showcase, which Doris will go over in a bit. And also, there is a lost and found at the Information Center. So if you're missing anything, please go check it out there. And we'll be back here after the investment showcase, the lunch, and the breakout session at 4:30. We have a really good closing keynote speaker, so please make sure that you attend back here. Doris?
The coming 30 minutes is a networking break, and then please go to visit the investment showcases. I know you may have some meetings with your friends or collaborators, but please go to the rooms and give some support to the investment showcase, and then give your vote, and they will compete for the People's Choice Award. And use our social media booth and also members booth to get more connection with the outside conferences. And also very important, we have free supply of Coca-Cola drinks. Okay, it's the most important message. Please open the fridge and get your Coca-Cola drinks. And see you later after the networking and after the investment showcase. We'll see here again in the afternoon. Okay, thank you.